Hey everybody, this is great. I work at KQED, which is public NPR affiliate and PBS affiliate in San Francisco, and I'm part of our education department. Um, I'm here to talk about mostly solution-based stuff, but I hopefully will have some time to weigh in on some of these other issues at the end, which are foundational to the work that we're doing. So I'm here to talk about a solution a product that we've developed called KQED Learn, which is an online space for student inquiry and collaboration, connecting students, connecting secondary classrooms, middle and high school classrooms, across the country around issues and questions that matter to them. So KQED Learn is a free platform for hosting and supporting student inquiry, investigation, and media making in classrooms as they engage and ask questions, as they conduct inquiry and investigations, as they make and share findings in multimedia formats, fostering connections and collaborations between individuals and community, and finding an audience for great student work. At KQED, the foundation of our work is about elevating youth voice from the classroom to our national conversations. We believe that teenagers should be heard. And in order for teenagers to be heard, we need to develop the tools and platforms for them to be heard on. So what we do is we're going to work on providing them a framework and resources to refine their voice and engage in informed discussion, conduct their own inquiry, and produce stories that matter to them and their communities, and to share their work with peers and more. There's a word missing. It's widely. I do promise that while these are easy to read, I did get the memo, and I have several slides that you will not be able to read later on. At the root of the problem that we see it is inquiry, or rather the failure to adequately promote inquiry has led to a generation or maybe generations of people waiting to be told what matters and why. As Haroon from BBG said yesterday, and it was also kind of brought up today in a different way, disinformation is ineffective against a well-educated, informed citizenry, and maybe we think that in nurturing curiosity and an inquiry mindset is part of that equation. So the first part of our Learn experience is called Go Above the Noise. This is a series that we produce at KQED that seeks to spark civic engagement and informed debate about issues that are relevant to youth in their community. We have a young journalist who hosts our show. We are hyped on the animation. And what we do in this series is we really bring topics that we think kids are going to be interested in, as well as we have to find this balance of stuff that teachers are also interested in, engaging in discussions with their students. And through the series, we model inquiry by asking critical questions and investigating answers and looking at things from multiple perspectives, talking about why sources are good sources, why sources are not. And then through the end, what Miles does is guides people. Miles is the host. What Miles does is guides students through the process so that as he's learning, he's modeling what kinds of questions and activities they should ask. And then we invite kids into discussion. So this is a national conversation, and here's my first slide that you won't be able to read. So this is a good one, good place for us to go on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paraphrase some of this. So this is a discussion around free speech on college campuses. It's stemmed from an episode we did about the issues that happened at UC Berkeley with Milo, don't know his last name, and some of the other guys that are part of his troupe. So this is 4 responses from 3 schools around the country. 2 of them are in the Bay Area. One of them is in Los Angeles, and the other one is a student from Quantico here in Virginia. And the first kid starts with a provocation. He says that the presence of hate speech and the Constitution's inability to stop it throws the whole thing into question. 231 years, it's too old, it's too white, right? The second kid says, get a grip, you're wrong. There's no expiration date on the Constitution. Third kid says, well, I agree that the Constitution's important, but he might have a point. We do need to think about this hate speech thing. And then the fourth student, who's a middle schooler from Virginia, says, sorry, but we need to protect all speech, even hate. Hate speech is ridiculous, she does note. But if we stop protecting it, then all of our rights become vulnerable. So we have this kind of rich conversation happening with students in urban environments, students across the country, students across grade levels, that we're really kind of excited about. So after students engage in this kind of discussion, they start to find their voice, they start to learn how to cite resources from how to build that kind of into their natural language as they're writing about the things that they're thinking. We then open it up for questions to students. We start providing learning resources at the point of need. So along with asking questions, the point where students begin to ask questions, again, another slide you can't read, and ironically, I can't either. But we start providing, it's the weird, bifocals don't work. I don't know if anyone wears them and they work, tell me about it, because they just don't. So our thing is, we then provide solution or sources with other KQED media professionals answering questions like, what kind of questions are there, and how do I ask a good question? So we have media personalities talking about, well, in the show that I do, or as a reporter, and we model those kinds of things throughout the process. Then we get into our investigations process, our inquiry process, which is focused on 4 main steps: questioning, investigating, making and sharing, and reflecting and responding to others. I've pulled out a little piece here. This is from an investigation on nuclear power that spawned from there was an icon on the earlier slide about nuclear power and one of the videos we did. This investigation has 4 different schools, 75 different participants. They're sharing 19 different internet resources, and they've produced 61 different pieces of media as a result of their investigations. There's a few of the kids at the top of the list. 3 minutes. Okay. So here we have, I gotta push this and this, here's this. So at the first stage, we ask kids what they already know. So if you're a teacher, you know about like KWL charts and all kinds of things and activating prior learning. So we say before they start doing the investigation, what do you already know about nuclear power? Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they don't know anything, sometimes they're right, but the point is they can start to see that what other kids are thinking before they begin the process. Once they begin the process, they move into an investigation stage. Here again, I've told you, I promised slides you couldn't read. I am delivering on that promise. At the investigation stage, students can share, rate, and discuss resources and see the ways that others are valuing or not valuing those same resources. So in this case, here's one of the resources on the top, and you have, in this particular case, there are 18 different comments on this resource. The resource has received, it's a good one, it's received a great rating. So you can see down here, students are like, what are they, why I think this is a good resource. Other students can start to see what other kids are thinking. Then we move into making and sharing media content. So at this point, we wrap it all together back at the beginning. Their initial thought lays in the top so they can see it. Their learning becomes presented in context. They can see where I was, where I am. We roll in the citations on the right of the articles or the resources that they have cited as part of their research. And then the students share this content, reflect on it, and then invite other students to respond to their work as well. So, I mentioned earlier that we are involved in elevating youth voice, and all of this is our attempt to get students making amazing media, becoming literate and making positive contributions and becoming civically engaged. In the spring of this year, we decided to test the hypothesis of whether students could actually make media that our producers would put on the radio. Our producers didn't think that we could, but we tried it. We ended up working with 10 students in kind of a rapid fire prototype session to see, 10 teachers, excuse me, in a prototype. And over about 8 weeks, we ended up with 35, after 8 weeks, we ended up with 35 students on the air, producing stories live on KQED radio, reaching an audience of about 250,000 people a day. And then 75 more stories published on KQED.org our website, which is also viewed millions of times a month. How much for 30 seconds, Phil? I'm just kidding. Okay, so I had a bunch of stuff, but I do want to do one more slide, and this is the way we define this conversation that's come up a few different times today. It's skepticism versus cynicism. And I think I haven't heard the word cynic, but I think that that's what we're talking about, is the cynic distrusts everything, and the skeptic kind of thinks about the things and questions and learns to question as part of the process. And then, you know, we have some other justifications. I'll show you slides later if you want. Thanks.